With Jameial Lyons and Kaveion Keys both serving an interim suspension, it brings more questions and concerns about the depth charts at defensive end and linebacker.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Kaveion Keys and Jameial Lyons are serving an interim suspension. Is Nick Dawkins not a lock to be the starting center? And just some other news and notes from the first day of Penn State training camp. This is Locked On Nittany Lions. I'm your host, Zach Seyko, and thanks so much for making us your first listen and watch every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As the playoffs wind down, the sports stop sportsing like we all want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all of its customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone each and every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And we will begin with Keys and Lyons as they are not with the team. They are suspended, and more intel is beginning to be released about the situation. And initially it was tough to gauge, okay, what's going on here? Penn State spokesperson just kind of ambiguously says that, hey, they're not with the team. They're on an interim suspension, and we don't have a comment further than that. But any and all suspensions are going to be serious just because of regardless who involves, but what had happened to where Penn State and the coaching staff felt it was necessary to take this kind of action. I'm not here to discuss any rumors or make any judgments about the situation, especially given that we just don't have any information. Media days on Saturday. James Franklin and company will be asked about it further, so we will get more information. But there is, from what other information has been discussed by On3, 24/7, Rivals, that there is an ongoing investigation to figure out this situation between Lyons and Keys. They are not with the team presently. They are away from the team, and it could be something that is serious. Don't know what's going to happen. Don't know when these players will be back, but that this is something that is an ongoing situation and it's not going to be resolved immediately. And I'm just hoping for the best out of the situation. I hope that there is a resolution. I hope that the appropriate actions are taken for whatever the case may be. From a football standpoint, though, as I pivot, from a football standpoint, this is a big deal as well because Penn State doesn't exactly have the same kind of depth that it did at defensive end and linebacker as it normally would like to. And the impact that Jameial Lyons and Kaveion Keys were supposed to have. Kaveion Keys and Lyons have received rave reviews. I've said that before and I'll say it again. We've heard it in interviews that have been posted on this channel from coaches, from fellow teammates that say that Lyons was ready to have a breakout. Kaveion Keys is someone that is going to be a household name for the future. And that's just put into doubt with a situation like this. And I know that, again, the situation is separate and you need a resolution there, but I'm talking specifically now about the absence of Keys and Lyons. If this was obviously a situation away from football, but what if this was an injury case? This is how I would speak about them if they had happened to be injured and not being able to practice. Keys and Lyons were expected to make an impact. They were crucial pieces to this depth chart, both at linebacker and defensive end. Lyons was expected to be, from what I gathered, that third defensive end, be that rotational player between Abdul Carter and Denine Dennis-Sutton. And then Kaveion Keys was supposed to be just a backup linebacker. Would see what kind of role that would be because there's only two linebacker spots in a 4-2-5 defense. So he would be backing up either Kobe King. Would he emerge as that backup to Kobe King? Would he rotate in behind Dom DeLuca, Tony Rojas, right? How far down the depth chart would he be in that instance? Now we don't know what's going to happen with that impact because of these off-the-field issues that have to be taken care of. And whatever the case is, Penn State took the action that it did for a reason, and we are hoping for a best-case resolution. regardless. So what does the depth chart look like moving forward at linebacker and defensive end if Keys and Lyons aren't available for an extended period of time? Again, we are still waiting for the information, the intel, to figure out just what is going to happen with their availability. But let's say they are unavailable for week 1 against West Virginia. What would this look like? I want to begin with linebacker because that was one of my concerns in the offseason going into training camp. Linebacker just has a lot of unproven talent. Keon Wiley dealing with an extended injury. You now have Kaveion Keys in this suspension. Dom DeLuca's back. Tony Rojas has a lot of potential. Kobe King's your anchor. There's been, a lot of criticism around Tyler Elsdon and his play from a season ago. So you really needed somebody to step up, and the more people that you have available to do that, I think Tony Rojas and Kaveion Keys, in terms of potential, had a lot to prove this season. Like, this was their opportunity to break out because of Curtis Jacobs ends up moving on. They're running a 4-2-5 most likely with the 2 linebacker set because of what you have at linebacker as far as unproven players and what you have at safety and proven talent, right? KJ Winston should be a first-round pick in next year's NFL draft. Jalen Reed, I think, is going to be a draftable player and could play his way into a higher selection. And then Zach Wheatley, as we've heard from James Franklin, that the light bulb has turned on, that he's figured out, and he is going to be a full-time starting safety. So now you can run more safeties on defense, and Penn State has said they will use the talent that they have at their disposal. So it doesn't matter. That's a 4-3, a 3-4, 4-2-5, whatever that's going to look like based on the available players that you have. And since linebacker was already in question, you have the situation with Kaveion Keys, it makes a little more sense. And then at defensive end, don't forget about Abdul Carter. He's going to rotate back and forth between defensive end and linebacker. Again, Penn State likes to take its defense and mold it to the talents of the available players. Jameial Lyons was supposed to be a significant contributor, and I think more so than Kaveion Keys. If either of those guys aren't available, now over at defensive end, Zuriah Fisher, kind of like Keon Wiley, is expected to be back, but is dealing with that injury and has to go through a recovery process. You have Carter and Denai Dennis Sutton as your defensive ends. That next one up was supposed to be Lyons, but this is an opportunity for Smith Vilbert to have a comeback career and make an impact since that 3-sack performance against Arkansas. You also have Zuriah Fisher again returning from injury. And then there's Amin Vanover as well. So Vanover's been in the program for a long time. He's, I would say, more of a run stuffer, a run stopper than a pass rusher. But they wouldn't have him at defensive end if he wasn't able to get after the quarterback. I'm just saying what he's better at from what we've seen on the football field. So that's going to be the defensive line room the defensive end room anyway, moving forward. Again, we'll wait for more information and we'll talk about it as it happens. But at this very moment, Lyons and Keys are serving an interim suspension for a personal matter that is still going through an ongoing investigation. Now, still to come, more takeaways from the first day of training camp. Nick Dawkins is supposed to be starting at center, but is there an open competition for that spot? We'll discuss that and more coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. Today's show is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your number one ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to its peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you are into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. And with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car into that MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. That is ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Nick Dawkins, a redshirt senior, is supposed to be the starting center for this group. Seeing a lot of rotational playing time when he was available. He's battled injuries throughout his Penn State career, but I like him to be the starting center for this group. I like his personality. I like his leadership style. You want your center to be vocal, and it's not that anybody else that would step in and be a center isn't for Penn State. But for this season's team, I think Nick Dawkins gives you exactly what you need from a talent standpoint and a personality standpoint to be the starting center. But that doesn't mean that Penn State isn't going to create some insurance. So there's always been the rumors, the discussions that, oh, the center spot isn't safe. I think it is. I mean, Nick Dawkins has always been that backup center. It would make sense for him to take over with Hunter Norzad moving on now. I mean, he's been with the program long enough. He knows what he's doing. So I think Penn State is essentially creating an insurance plan here. And why I say that, because at training camp, we've talked about, and coaches have talked about, how Sal Wormley has taken snaps at center. Well, yesterday at practice, Vanga Ioane was taking reps, snapping the ball to Drew Aller, Bo Pribula, and Cooper Cousins in the spring was also taking reps at center, snapping the football behind Nick Dawkins. So there's a common theme here. You need players being comfortable snapping the ball, making the reads and the adjustments that a center needs to do. Nick Dawkins, as much as I would like to sit here and guarantee that he's going to play 12 plus games in a regular season, he has had that trouble in the past staying on the football field and has battled injuries. I'm not saying that's going to happen this time, but you never know. He might have to take a play off. He might have to, there's a chance that he would be unavailable because it's the game of football. So I think Penn State is doing the right thing by just having any of its interior offensive linemen, Sal Wormley, Vanga Ioane, Cooper Cousins, the true freshman, any of those guys need to prove their versatility and be available at any moment's notice, because you don't want to just have Nick Dawkins and then no backup plan. You need those guys to be able to rotate in at any time. And that's good if you can have a starter. So I expect Vanga Ioane to be a starting guard. If he needs to move over to center, then there's that comfort and you still have that starter caliber player in the middle of the offensive line. So I think that's what the real competition is. The real competition isn't that Nick Dawkins' center job is at risk. I think the competition is who's going to be the person that moves over if Nick Dawkins were to be unavailable. I still want to keep an eye on both of those tackle spots. This was something that I pointed out in the initial training camp battle preview. I am not sold. Now, Drew Shelton was taking reps at left tackle when we got to see the first training camp there for Penn State, but I don't know that his job is safe either. Javen Williams is a former 5-star tackle, but I think this battle is between Shelton and JB Nelson. JB Nelson was taking reps at guard, but James Franklin has talked about the versatility of Nelson and that he can play tackle. Drew Shelton hasn't proven himself as that true left tackle yet. They moved him over to right tackle to back up Caden Wallace, right? I know that he came in as a true freshman when Olufashinu was hurt and was out for the remainder of the season, that he did an acceptable job for a true freshman. He did an admirable job for a true freshman. But I don't have enough confidence to say that, okay, Drew Shelton is the left tackle of the future. Prove it. Prove that you are. And then I will change my stance. But I think there is quietly a competition between a JB Nelson and a Drew Shelton, and then a Nolan Rucci or an Anthony Donko. Again, I don't think it's about who's going to be on the left side and who's going to be on the right side. It's going to be who are the two best available tackle players, and we're going to put them there. And as far as Javen Williams goes, I've mentioned his name in passing about, okay, he's a left tackle, he's a former 5-star, but I am concerned with his development. If you watch the spring game closely, he did not have a good performance, and that's what I am basing this commentary solely off of, because we don't have a lot of other tapes since he isn't actively playing in games. But you're going up against comparable talent. Again, a guy that you see at practice week in and week out. And Jameial Lyons, I know he's serving the suspension, but in regard to the spring game, had a really good performance against Javen Williams, and Javen Williams just made egregious mistakes in that game. Looked off balance, looked confused. Lyons was able to use basic pass rush moves, didn't really handle the blitz very well. So people might say in the comments, hey, don't sleep on Javen Williams. And I don't have any intention to, because I don't think he's the next man up at left tackle at the moment. I think you're looking at Drew Shelton, Anthony Donko, Nolan Rucci, and JB Nelson as your 4 best tackles available. There's also Alex Birchmeier. We'll see how he continues to develop. And don't forget that Cooper Cousins has the versatility to move outside to tackle as well. So it's not going to be, well, Javen Williams is a left tackle. Okay, that's fine and well, but who are the best available players to move outside of JB Nelson, even though he is actually a guard first? If he's better as a left tackle than the next man up on that depth, on that part of the depth chart, then so be it. They are going to play who is best available in that case. So the offensive line is a project moving forward. Kind of just like linebacker where you have a lot of question marks. This is my biggest concern. The only one that I think, the only 2 spots that I think are surely up, that are surefire, are center with Nick Dawkins and at guard with Sal Wormley, because I don't know what their plan is at guard and tackle based on who's available. So keep an eye on that competition moving forward as they approach West Virginia. And how about some other observations from training camp, the first day of practice? Andy Kotelnicki is everything that Penn State could have asked for in an offensive coordinator. Max Granville is officially with the team and suited up in full pads for his first practice as well. Some other observations, we'll talk about those on the other side of this break. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. I love sports and I love them so much that I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games and the sports aren't exactly sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want them to. And all I have to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all of its customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. And all you got to do is head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. And if you look over at FanDuel.com, you can see lines for the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Philadelphia Phillies. The Pirates are back at home against the Diamondbacks. They are a slight underdog on the money line, plus 114 with a total set at 8.5. And then the Phillies are all the way on the other side of the country. They are taking on the Seattle Mariners on the road. They are an even money line underdog at plus 100. The total is set for 7.5. If you like those lines, you can bet that and more right now at FanDuel.com. Again, that's FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. I think Penn State really hit a home run with Andy Kotelnicki. And as we finish up this edition of Locked On Nittany Lions, he is vocal. I like his energy. I like his spirits. The way that he's just, he communicates, he gets everybody involved. He criticizes and says things to, where necessary. But I just like the vibe. Seriously, that's what I'm going off of here. I'm going off of the vibes of Andy Kotelnicki. But Kotelnicki he makes practice fun. He makes practice enjoyable. Again, involves everyone. And briefly what we saw, okay, Mike Yurcich didn't exactly do that. I'm not saying that, and Mike Yurcich is gone there, but you can tell there's an absolute difference in terms of the exchange of energy between the coaching staff and the players and just how practice is conducted. I just like the way that Andy Kotelnicki operates. I think he enjoys being there. I think he likes what he does a lot. And he said that he's a student and now a teacher of the game. So he enjoys his job quite a bit. Kotelnicki, just from that alone, I think just makes him, because players will want to gravitate to that. Players will respond to that accordingly. If you have this offsetting energy, and this isn't specific to Mike Yurcich either. If you just have an offsetting energy, you don't really, again, you're not being communicative with the players that are around you, you're going to have a difficult time resonating with them. And I think that Andy Kotelnicki, from a short period of time, even though they haven't played a game yet, is already getting that kind of response back where the players resonate with him and they respond to him in a positive way, and it builds a form of trust, and it's going to create a desire to go into battle, go into these football games and do what you can at the direction of James Franklin's the same way. He's a high energy guy. Andy Kotelnicki is a high energy guy. Tom Allen's also a high energy guy, but seeing it, because you just gravitate to the quarterbacks, the wide receivers and running backs when you walk into practice, they're all broken up into their position groups. It's easy to find Andy Kotelnicki because he is one of the loudest on the football field, and in a good way. He's not yelling at anybody. He's just very vocal. He's very loud. He's communicating constantly. You can hear his voice the second you walk onto the practice field. Already addressed just some thoughts about the offensive line. Again, I think there is going to be a competition for that second wide receiver. I'm not just chalking it up to Julian Fleming. I don't know that he's a guaranteed spot starter. I know why you brought him in, but I think Amari Evans is going to have something to say about that second starting wide receiver spot. And you just need anybody and everybody to step up at wide receiver. If you rotate them, so what? Maybe Fleming starts one week and Evans starts the other week, but I don't want people to think that there's this pecking order that, oh, Fleming's going to get 90% of snaps and Evans will rotate in periodically. No, you might see a 50-50 timeshare. Fleming just might happen to be in the first formation and Evans will be in the second one. That's just how it's going to be. I think the same case for the slot wide receiver spot between Caden Saunders and Liam Clifford, which is a good thing. The fact that you have multiple receivers that can go out and you're confident in their playmaking ability at any time is a good thing, but you can't have 6-7 wide receivers all in the field at the same time. Same goes for running back number 3. I've already addressed this in a training camp preview. Quentin Martin and Cam Wallace, keep an eye on that battle. I think Quentin Martin can quietly overtake Cam Wallace, but Cam Wallace has done so well since he's been on campus in Happy Valley, and I think he can start and be that backup behind Singleton and Allen, but that's going to be an ongoing thing where Martin, I think, progressively will close the gap, and Penn State's going to have to consider if they want to burn his red shirt or not and give him those 4 games. Max Granville was there, true freshman that is enrolling early. He's definitely a redshirt candidate. I don't see him playing more than 3. I think the maximum games that he can appear in are 4, unless that's changed. Again, the NCAA continues to change its rules and everything, scholarship counts, so we'll see. But I know from what I remember is that it is 4 games. Could Granville appear on special teams late in the game, maybe play some defense to get him some in-game action? Absolutely. But this is with the intention of, hey, we want you to get here, develop, train as quickly as you can so that you're ready to make a true impact in the 2025 season, or at least be a part of the rotation. I view him as a starter, a future starter. They had anybody. LeVar Arrington II, Jaden Woods committed, Cortez Harris, right? They had all these available players to say, hey, can you enroll early and be at Penn State now instead of signing and being in the class of 2025? And they chose Max Granville to do that. He was there in full pads and taking in a full practice. And I just want to point out Tyler Elsdon is that guy. Tyler Elsdon, I hope to see that he's improved and more of a playmaker in 2024. Again, criticized him a bit on this show back in 2023. But Elsdon took off his helmet and revealed a pretty cool, pretty nifty haircut, I should say. Had mimicked the helmet stripe from the Penn State uniform and dyed the middle part of his hair blue to mimic that stripe on the helmet. So Tyler Elsdon is that guy and hopes to be a gamer this season based on just the attitude that you can get from somebody that nobody else had done that, just Tyler Elsdon. He's a veteran, so hopefully he's setting the tone early for this season. So that's one training camp practice. Media day is this weekend where we actually get to talk to the players and coaches a little more in an interview style. And then there's going to be practices for the following week and then the next week and the next week leading up to West Virginia. For all that information, reaction, analysis, and so much more, it's all going to be right here on Locked On Nittany Lions. So if you're not already, become an everydayer, subscribe to the show on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast, leave a like on this episode and let me know down in the comments your first takeaways from this training camp. And we'll have more to come here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And again, thanks for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. For your second listen, you got to check out Locked On College Football. Spencer McLaughlin is getting you ready for an exciting season of college football. I've been a guest on that show multiple times now, but if you want more discussions on all of college football outside of just the Penn State Nittany Lions, check out his show. He's talking about the changing landscape of college athletics, NIL, transfer portal, the new expanded college football playoff, and so much more. Again, that is Locked On College Football, hosted by Spencer McLaughlin, now available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every day.